Hello and welcome to another video from home, and today on A Vogel Talks Menopause I'm going to be talking about 3 ways too much salt can impact on your menopause symptoms. Now if you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and remember to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all my new videos. We know that sugar can have a huge impact on our menopause symptoms, but the same can be said for salt, which not everybody realizes. So I thought I would look at 3 areas where too much salt can impact on your menopause symptoms. And the first one is high blood pressure. If we have too much salt in our diet, this can cause water retention and that can raise your blood pressure. In turn, that can put pressure on your heart and other organs such as your kidneys and your brain. Research also shows that menopause women can become sensitive to salt or more sensitive to salt. So less salt can have a bigger impact on your health as you go through the menopause compared to what would have happened beforehand. And high blood pressure is one of those undiscovered menopause symptoms, if you like. We do know that it can happen to a lot of women, but unfortunately there are very few symptoms. So a lot of women are ending up experiencing high blood pressure without realizing it. And of course, if you then add in lots of extra salt, this can compound the problem, which is not a good idea at all. Number 2 is too much salt can cause dehydration, and I'm sure we've all done it. We've had a packet of salted nuts or a takeaway and suddenly you feel so thirsty, and it's because salt will dehydrate you. Dehydration, as we know, by itself can trigger a whole range of menopause symptoms such as hot flushes and night sweats, anxiety, palpitations, headaches and joint pain. And the third area where it can be affected is bloating. Water retention, again, if we're having too much salt, this can cause water retention, and this can cause swelling in a number of areas of the body. A lot of women tell me that they find that their fingers start to swell and their rings hurt or they can't get their rings on. And another very common area for water retention is the ankles. Also, research has shown that too much salt can cause intestinal bloating. So it's not just food that can give us that tummy bloat, but it can also be salt as well. And salt, too much salt too, can cause digestive cramp. So if you get these symptoms, then just have a look at your diet to see if you're eating too much salt here. Also, it's very important, we need a certain amount of salt in order for our body to function properly, especially to help with proper fluid balance. So that's not too much, not too little. And also salt is needed for proper nerve function and proper muscle function. But we only need a tiny amount on a daily basis. And the recommended amount here in the UK is 6 grams of salt, which is roughly a teaspoonful. So it's not a lot. If you get salt craving, so if you find that you are really severely craving salt the whole time, this is important just to double check with your doctor, because this could indicate health issues such as adrenal fatigue. So how can you just keep an eye on your salt? There's a lot of simple things that you can do. Watch how much you're putting in your cooking. Unless I'm making soup or things like casseroles, I don't put any salt in anything that I'm cooking. What I then do is, once it's cooked, is to taste it, and if I think it needs a little bit of salt, I'll just sprinkle a little bit on. And one of the things that I've realized, that if you have a salt shaker, very often you end up putting more salt than you need. So I always put a little bit of salt in the palm of my hand and then just sprinkle it on my food, and you have much more control of how much you're putting on, rather than just shaking it all over. You can use other seasonings such as herbs, such as spices, um, and pepper as well is another nice one to use, which can work really well and bring out the flavour of your food. Look at different versions of salt. Table salt, the white table salt that most people use, is refined. Everything's been taken out of it to make it look pretty. Whereas natural salts, such as your sea salts, your Himalayan salts, your natural salts, they can come in all different colours. And the reason for that is they contain a whole range of minerals in very tiny amounts, but these can be really beneficial for our health. We do a lovely range of salts called herbamare, which contains a combination of sea salt and a mixture of herbs and spices. We do a normal salt, we do a low salt, and we also do a spicy salt too. And I love the spicy one. I find it's great on things like baked potatoes and in egg dishes. You can also check food labels when you're in doing your shopping. A lot of the supermarkets now, they do coding on the packets, sort of green's okay, amber is just watch out, and red is high in salt and sugar. So just double check that everything, that if you're buying from the supermarket, how much salt is in it. They reckon that 75% of the salt that we eat comes from food that's already been prepared in some way that we buy in. So, look at your cheeses, obviously things like crisps, salted nuts, your pizzas, ready meals, processed meats such as bacon and cold meats. But there are some surprising foods as well. A couple of slices of bread or a bowl full of breakfast cereal will contain almost 1 gram of salt. So by having 2 pieces of bread and a bowl of cereal for your breakfast, you are consuming a third of your daily salt intake. So it can be really interesting and quite shocking just to look at all the food labels and the salt that's in your foods. So hopefully this has helped. It's a big issue, salt in the diet, and we do tend not to be so fussy and careful about it than we do about sugar, but it's still very important. Any of you have any tips on how you reduced your salt, we would love to hear about it. And until then, I will see you next time for another edition of A Vogel Talks Menopause.